Breaking news. As a result, Putin will have to adjust his plans for the Ukraine. After more than a year of hard fighting that has achieved few of the Kremlin's initial goals, the head of the Moscow-installed occupation authority in Crimea has suggested that Russian President Vladimir Putin's grand ambitions to demilitarize Ukraine may require an adjustment. According to Crimea 24 television, Sergei Aksionov, the leader of occupied Crimea since its seizure by Moscow's Little Green Men in 2014, has said that any re-evaluation of Russian war goals will be dictated by the rapidly developing situation at the front in southern and eastern Ukraine. The situation changes daily, Aksionov was quoted as saying to the Moscow Times. He continued, "I think that still the goals will be adjusted in one way or another, I personally have no doubt." Putin began his invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, claiming he would demilitarize and denazify the country. These indistinct objectives were reportedly constructed on a foundation of falsified historical accounts and years of misleading briefings from Russia's security services and military hierarchy. Despite repeated U.S. intelligence warnings that Putin had prepared for full-scale war, few expected the Kremlin to be bold or reckless enough to make a drive for Kyiv. Many feared a Russian offensive to complete the partial occupation of the eastern Donbass region. Moscow's war preparations were a shambles in a matter of weeks. After suffering a string of military setbacks, the Kremlin is now facing the prospect of yet another humiliating retreat in the south and east of Ukraine, where Russian troops still control about 20% of the country's internationally recognized territory despite Ukraine's long-planned counteroffensive. The regions of Cherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk, all of which are located in Ukraine, are the ones that Putin claims to have annexed. Russian troops have spent months fortifying all four against a possible counterattack by the Ukrainians. It is believed that Russian forces in Donetsk, led by Wagner Group mercenaries, suffered heavy casualties while capturing the ruined city of Bakhmut. Ukraine, meanwhile, has been preparing for its forthcoming push by training new troops and integrating NATO weapon systems. Moscow's war has given Kyiv's long-held ambitions of joining NATO and the European Union a huge political boost. Putin's attempt to stop Ukraine's decades-long trend toward the West in politics and culture has clearly backfired. The annexation of Crimea sparked a new heated phase in the conflict between Kiev and Moscow, which dates back to at least the turn of the century, and Kiev has made no secret of its intention to liberate the peninsula. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his top officials have insisted that the war will continue as long as Crimea is under Russian control, despite calls from some Western officials for the Ukrainian government to rein in its ambitions. According to Aksionov's interview with Crimea 24, a future more difficult strategic situation may result from the Kremlin's failure to implement its original goals. Aksionov warned that if Ukraine joins NATO and the EU with a military presence, it will be even more difficult for us to say something, build something. Aksionov urged observers to be patient when asked where the final Russian-Ukrainian border would be drawn.